Let's return now to our top story. The Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido's call on the army to stage a coup to oust President Nicolas Maduro. In 2017, Alfred de Zayas became the first UN rapporteur to make an approved visit to Venezuela for 21 years, and he joins us from Geneva. Good evening to you. Do you see this as a tipping point today?
Not necessarily. I mean, there have been several other attempts at toppling the government. Of course, it's a serious matter. We will have to see how it develops. But let me say two fundamental things. First, there's nothing more undemocratic than a coup. And secondly, there have been too many right-wing coups in Latin America. We don't want a repetition of Augusto Pinochet toppling Salvador Allende. I favor, as most of my colleagues, rapporteurs favor, as the High Commissioner favors, as the Secretary General of the United Nations favors, mediation. And the best chance of a negotiated peaceful solution is the Montevideo mechanism. That's what I would like to see. Beyond,
what does that entail?
The Montevideo mechanism was launched by the governments of Mexico and Uruguay with the support of the Vatican, and that has a prehistory. The Spanish former Prime Minister José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero did conduct a 2-year negotiation between the opposition and the government. That was the years 2016, 17, and 18. And they reached a reasonable agreement. And unfortunately, the day of signing, Julio Borges refused to sign, to everyone's consternation. Now, it's quite clear that the opposition has no interest in negotiation. They've said so. What they want is to take over, period. But when I was in Venezuela, and I spoke with members of the opposition, and I spoke with members of the National Assembly and of the Chamber of Commerce of the entrepreneurs, who are, of course, all anti-Maduro, I said, if you aspire to the presidency, you're going to be president for the entire Venezuelan people, including the 9 million or so committed Chavistas are there. They're not going to roll over. They're not going to disappear. So what are you going to do? So you have to sit down and talk. You cannot simply ignore them. And as I said, there is, notwithstanding all the propaganda, the fake news, the fake law, and the fake diplomacy here, there is a feeling that with the support of the United States, they will topple the government. And I have a sense, and I see the United States and Canada and the United Kingdom and, of course, all the potential investors. I mean, we're circling around Venezuela like sharks before the feeding frenzy. This is something that is disgraceful because it violates everything for which we stand for. The United Nations Charter and the Charter of the Organization of American States that provides international solidarity.
In terms of violations, Mr. de Zayas, Amnesty International has said the Maduro government is responsible for the worst human rights crisis in the country's history. The list of crimes under international law against the population is growing. We've just been looking at pictures of protesters being rammed by armoured vehicles in response to this. I mean, it's not crowd control, is it? Is it not right that countries like the US, etc., should intervene?
Certainly not. Intervention is a clear violation of the UN Charter, Articles 2, 3, and 4, and of the OAS Charter, Articles 3, 19, 20, etc. What is necessary is peaceful negotiation. Now, you speak, and the common narrative is that these are peaceful demonstrators. Now, I have seen films of the guarimbas of 2013, 2014, 2016, 2017. These demonstrators, or shall we say many among these demonstrators, threw Molotov cocktails. They burnt alive 7 Chavistas. all of them black, because there's a high level of racism in the opposition. I mean, the feeling is the Chavistas are the lower classes and they don't count. So the government, the future government of Venezuela can only be the oligarchs and the United States. That is where the problem is, but they don't seem to understand that there are committed Chavistas and that they were going to fight. We do not want a civil war in Venezuela. A civil war in Venezuela could have enormous economic repercussions for the entire region. So what is in our interest is to mediate. The High Commissioner for Human Rights is going to visit Venezuela. She sent some colleagues of mine, whom I know, to Venezuela a few weeks ago to prepare that visit. And I'm hoping that the visit will happen sooner rather than later.
Okay, Alfred de Zayas, I'm afraid we are out of time. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us. In the last hour, we've had a tweet from the United States President Donald J. Trump to say, I am monitoring the situation in Venezuela very closely. The United States stands with the people of Venezuela and their freedom. And a warning to President Maduro from John Bolton, the National Security Advisor in the US, that if harm is used against members of the public, then the US would take it very seriously indeed. We'll bring you the very latest on that situation, the calls for a coup by Juan Guaido. The government in Venezuela, though, describing it as a minor uprising by traitors. This is Sky News.